Flosstube, it's Kate here of Colorblind Cross Stitch. Today is June 10th, Saturday of course. Here comes Neko to say hello, to sit in my lap and probably try and eat the plastic bags, because that's what he does. I have several things for you today. Oh, you're going over there. Okay. Several things for you today. The first off is I have some progress. I worked on 2 whips, and they are 2 new starts. For utter craziness. For me, that's utter craziness. And it's funny because I remember like a couple weeks ago sitting in front of this camera and saying, I'm so happy I have 3 whips and it's a nice number and they're nicely different and this is great. Yeah, that didn't stay like that for very long. So now I have 5 whips because I started 2 this week and I will show you those. I also got quite a bit of happy mail. Actually, I'm quite warm. Let me take this shirt off. I might then decide I'm cold, but we'll see. Okay, so I also got some happy mail, which I will share with you. My order from Stitch It Central came, so I'm very pleased with that. And half of my magnets came. I'm still waiting for one more package of magnets. I have some sort of smaller, I guess medium-sized magnets. My large magnets came and my small magnets came. My medium-sized magnets have not come yet. But as a consequence of half my magnets coming, I got out my various pins and badges that I wanted to make into needle minders and got them ready. And I will show you those. And see, now I get to pair needle minders with all my projects. I'm super excited about that. So, let's begin. Let's begin with my first new start. As I mentioned last week, I was thinking of doing a whole bunch of different things. I ended up doing 2 things. The first one is the Connie G Rainbow Sal. In the end, I decided to put it on platinum. This is a pretty big piece of fabric. So I have got 4 of 12 circles done. This is in a dark purple. This is platinum 16 count, I believe. Yes, 16 count platinum Ida. Couldn't tell you who made it, but because secondhand stash. This border is in a Loops and Threads purple. It's Loops and Threads 748, I believe, and I feel like that was equivalent to DMC 550, maybe? I don't remember exactly. I actually have, I think it was 550, because I have 2 Loops and Threads 748 and Loops and Threads 750 are both sort of similar to DMC 550. And what I'm doing is, most of this is going to be done 2/1, but the border I'm doing 3/1, partially because, dark colors tend to have, not very good coverage, like less good coverage than lighter colors, partially because I'm pretty sure the Loops and Threads colors, like the Loops and Threads floss, is a little bit thinner than the DMC. And so because I was working in dark color and I was working in Loops and Threads, I wanted to make sure that I would have really good coverage. And then I kind of thought, well, if it comes out a little bit thicker than the rest of the pattern, that's actually not a bad thing. It might, it might make, if you can notice it. I don't know once I've got everything else in if the fact that this is 3 instead of 2 will actually be noticeable. But it might make the border like a little more bold, and sort of be a neat kind of effect. As a consequence though, because I'm doing it 3/1 for the border, and I actually only have 2 skeins of this purple. What I'm going to end up doing is, because conveniently this loops and threads, there are 2 loops and threads purples that equal, or that are similar to like the one DMC purple. I'm going to stitch the circles in this dark purple, the 748, and then do the whole, like there's a square outside border, and that I will do in the other purple, the other loops and threads purple, because I think if I was going to do both the border and the circles in one color, I would need at least 3 skeins, which I don't have. So I'm going to do it that way. It'll be in 2 different colors, but very similar, and I think it will still, it'll work. So that's why these 2 circles have a bit missing at the top, because that's where the border is. And in the original pattern, the border and the circles are all one color. But they'll be slightly different colors, but I think it'll still work and come out, you know, come out a nice, like still like go together. So what I ended up doing for this one is, like I said, that's platinum fabric, and I went into my stash and I grabbed a bunch of blues and purples. Oh yeah, I can show you what my needle minder is for this one. Whoops. Oh, turns out the wire on the needle threaders is magnetic. The little metal bit isn't. But so yes, I have a big bag of blues and purples. I basically went through my stash of threads because I have a bunch of, for example, I have a bunch of thread that doesn't have a label, like a box of unlabeled thread. This is actually plus some extra because these bobbins are too big to fit in the box. But like this must be like 3 or 4 skeins. I shoved a lot of thread on that bobbin. Oh my goodness. I'm not entirely sure how I made that work, but shoved a lot of thread on that bobbin. And so the pattern calls for 15 colors, so I technically have 16 because I'm doing those 2 colors for the border and the circles. But that's okay, and I'm going to do it in, so I have sort of 6 purples and 6 blues for the circles, like for the motifs in the circles. In the original, they're like rainbow colored, and then the border is, I think, a brown. But obviously I wanted to do it from stash, and I wanted to do it in purples, so a lot of them, purples and blues. So it turned out I couldn't do, like I pulled all my purples and I pulled all my blues, and I looked at them and went, okay, I can't really do 15 of either purple or blue because I don't quite have that many. Well, no, that's not true. I do actually have probably 15 of each different purples and blues. But it wasn't enough that I couldn't see the color difference in some of them, so I had like 2 or 3, and I'm like, okay, these are on different bobbins, which means they're probably different colors, but I can't tell that, so I don't want to put in my pattern and I'd be like, oh, my pattern is, they all look the same. So I picked 6 blues and 6 purples for the pattern itself. I feel like this needle had thread on it at one point. I think this needle did have thread on it at one point, and the thread is somewhere in my bag of goodies. So I think while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to put this needle on its piece of felt, if I can find the piece of felt in amidst all the thread and goodies. There it is. So I have 3 little bowhand needles and 1 big bowhand needle. I wanted this is the size 24 for the border. And I had like picked out 3 little needles, and then I was like, oh wait, I'm gonna need a big needle for the border, so I didn't bother picking out more than 1 big needle. But so yeah, my needles are just on a piece of these. It's pie shaped. No. Do not eat the needles. That is a bad idea. And so yeah, so that's purples and blues, and then the other thing I'm going to do is, because I have this wonderful bag of Krynic, I have 2 spools of high luster blending filament, and oh yeah, that is blue. Oh, cool. Sorry, I was, earlier, like last weekend when I was looking up, deciding what I wanted to do, I looked up the numbers for the Krynic, that is gold Japan thread, and this apparently is confetti blue braid. And I kept looking at it and going, well, if you say it's blue, I don't think it looks blue, but I guess in this lighting, it actually does kind of have a bluish tinge, so the Krynic website didn't lie. I mean, not that I expected it to, but I don't know, I'm always surprised when colors look like what they're supposed to. I mean, when I think they're one color and then they look like the color everyone else says they look like, and I'm like, oh, hey, all the other people were right. You know, even though I know that they're right. But yes, I have 2 spools of high luster blending filament and 2 spools of regular blending filament in silver. So I'm not sure if I'm going to use the regular or the high luster yet, or if I'm gonna like switch it up. But I think for the motifs, because it's a monthly sale, so there are 12 motifs, circular motifs, 1 for each month, that I'm going to do in a different color. 6 of them are going to be purple, 6 of them are going to be blue, and I think what I'm going to do is pick out, like in that motif, pick out part of the motif in like the blue or purple plus a blending filament to make it sparkly, because who doesn't love sparkles? And I have, you know, 4 spools of blending filament. I have blending filament to play with, and they're like 50 yard spools? I think the braid is like 11 or 12 yards, and then the spools of the blending filament are like 50. Actually, the Japan cord might be 40 yards. I feel like it's very thin. Yes, that one, or 40 meters. Hey, they're meters instead of yards. That means they're even more. That's exciting. 11 meters. 11 meters is probably 90 centimeters to a yard. I don't know. I don't feel like doing math. That doesn't matter. But, because I'm not using that, I don't know what the blue and gold's going to go for yet. I don't have projects for those yet. I just kind of kept them all together because it's just kind of my little baggie of Krynic. So I figured I'd just keep them in their baggie. But yeah, so there's going to be silvery blending filament bling somewhere in my Connie G Rainbow Sal. I don't have a picture for you, unfortunately, of what it will look like because, well, partially only the first 6 months have come out because it is a monthly sal. And partially it's completely on the computer, so I don't have a printed pattern to show you. So yeah, and then my needle minder, which I actually just picked out today, because I had a different one, and then I was like, I don't like that one. So this is Puzzle and Dragons. Puzzle and Dragons is a mobile game, which, unlike most mobile games, I haven't actually gotten bored of yet. And so I happened to pick up, I think this was a PAX pin. They had like a booth at PAX one year. And so this is a Tamedra. And just, Tama's really cute. So I figured Tama can be a needle minder. It was a pin. I took the pin back off with some wire cutters, pliers. The pin back's a little beaten up because of that, but that's okay. I think eventually when my magnets come, I'm going to actually, like, I haven't glued any of my magnets down yet, because these are magnetic buttons, but once the rest of my magnets come and I decide what magnets are going to go with what needle minders, I'm going to glue the magnets down. So I decided that because, I mean, Tama is actually a bit big for a needle minder. Most of these bigger pins I wouldn't really use for needle minders because they take up too much room on my hoop, but I'm doing this project with a bigger hoop so that I can basically do one motif. Whoops. My hoop fits one motif, so it's very convenient like that. So yes, so I decided that it can have Tama because Tamandras are cute. So that's that, and it's gonna be blues and purples, so it's not really rainbow as such, but that's okay, because it's gonna be blue and purple and beautiful. So I'm pretty excited. And I had so much fun picking out my threads for this. It's been a while since I've like sat down and just like gone through my thread stash and, you know, just like played with colors. I know that sounds funny because colorblind, play with colors. Actually, I do have, as I've said before, for all the colors that don't have labels, I have them sorted in my floss box, sort of like by general colorway, I guess? Color family? I don't know what you call that. So like blues are together, purples are together, reds are together, etc. So I went and pulled, you know, here's my blues. Which blues do I like, kind of thing. I also have an app on my phone that uses the, actually it's actually quite neat. It uses the phone's camera and looks at, so it, you know, it basically takes an image and looks at like, you know, a tiny like 10 pixel or like 4 pixel like piece of that image, and it will tell you what colors are in those pixels, both by like RGB value, I think, and then like by color name, you know. So it's not perfect because, I mean, especially with like really dark or really light colors, it tends to, you know, it tends to get mixed up. And because it's taking, you know, it's only looking at like 4 pixels out of like an entire image, you know, and your floss is not, at that resolution, it's not a uniform color, because, let's for example take, you know, I mean, yes, it's a uniform color, but like, if we're looking at like, you know, whoops, oh geez, there goes my, no, I got it, we're good. You know, there are like highlights and shadows, you know, on the one piece of floss. So when you're looking at it as a whole, yeah, it's one color, but this program is looking at, you know, a 4 pixel square. So depending on exactly where it is, it could be looking at a shadow, it could be looking at a highlight, it could be looking at somewhere, you know, in between. And so it kind of gives you, okay, these are the colors that I'm seeing. So it's not perfect, but it's enough to give me an idea of, you know, okay, this one's a greeny blue, this one's a bluey purple, you know, this one is coming out entirely grays. Okay, that apparently is not blue or purple at all, which did happen to me at one point, a couple points. Actually, I think I had a couple colors too that were green and not blue, and I was like, oh, okay. So I pulled first from my stash of unlabeled flosses, and then, because I wasn't quite getting enough, I went through and pulled from my stash of labeled flosses, which was a little easier because they have names associated with them. So I could go, okay, this is baby blue. Okay, you know, this is blue purple. You know, this is royal blue. This is navy, so on and so forth. So I picked out a bunch of blues and purples. And that was actually really fun because I haven't played with my boxes of floss in a while. So that was Connie G's Rainbow Cell. I've done 4 circles. I think I'm going to try and do... the circles actually stitch up pretty quickly because it's just one row. So I think I'm going to try and go back and, you know, work a day or 2 on this, add a couple more circles. Eventually I'll get at least enough so that I can start putting in months, because I kind of want to start with January just because of the idea of how I'm going to do my my blues and purples in the motifs. I don't want to screw that up by starting with you know, a month somewhere in the middle of the year. So I'm trying to get the circles in to, you know, so I can sort of start and do January, February, March. I mean, it's going to take me a while to catch up, especially because I'm not working on this full time. I'm probably going to, I would like to spend maybe a couple days just to put in a couple more circles. I think putting in these 4 circles took like 3 days, but also that was 3 days of, no, it's probably 4 days. 4 days total to pick threads, stitch the edge of my fabric, put 4 circles in. So I'll probably do something, hopefully do something to that one this week too. But that was, okay. Whip number 1 with needle minder. Okay, whip number 2. Oh, whip number 2 is the one I was working on. So, oh, I've lost a, okay, whip number 2 has lost a clothes peg. Yes, my fabric is stuck together with clothes pegs because there's a lot of fabric. This is like 30, it's like a 20 by 30 inch piece. Okay, so let's move my minder. Oh, here, I'll make my minder be not upside down too. Okay, so I do not know if this whole thing will come, will show up. Well, maybe if I do this. Whoop. Yeah, the whole thing is, yay, we gotta do it this way. It's a 20 by 30 piece. This is definitely the biggest piece of I have ever worked on. This is, I believe I talked about it. Yes, I definitely talked about it in my last video. This is a collaboration. The design was a collaboration between me and my person. He did most of the design work. I did some sort of like tweaking at the end. And I am stitching it obviously because he is not a stitcher. We're thinking of, we want to basically donate this to Desert Bus, or the Desert Bus for Hope Child's Play charity, which I talked about before. Oh, I'm gonna lose the Moogle. And so it's a bunch of like video game characters. There's sort of like, there's like good guys and bad guys that are kind of coming together. And then there's the poor Moogle in the middle. That is my poor Moogle. He's like, ah! Because in the picture there's a whole bunch of people like coming towards him from both sides. They're about to like meet in the middle and the poor Moogle's there going. So what I'm doing with this one is, normally I'm a blob stitcher. I guess it's kind of cross-country stitching. I don't do the whole parking thing. So what I do is I find the middle, I start in the middle and stitch whatever like blob is closest to the middle. When I run out of that thread, I go on to like the next blob, you know, that's attached to that blob, whether it be in that color or a different color, and I just kind of go by blobs. This one, I do not have half the colors for it yet. The pattern calls for 56 colors. I have, I think, 20 of them in total. Maybe 25. I haven't even pulled, I've only pulled like 8 or 10 colors so far. When I was in my box of unorganized flosses, I pulled out the ones that were in there, and I think I have like 8 or 10, including black and white. And so what I'm doing with this now is just I'm basically doing the black and the white first, because I know I have enough skeins of black and white. The background is all going to be half-stitched. There's green grass, green hills, blue sky, white clouds. I do not have either the greens or the blues. No, technically I think I have one skein of one of the greens, but because it requires like 2 or 3 skeins, I'm gonna buy the 2 skeins for that, or 3 skeins for that, whatever I need, like all the skeins I need for that, just because my unorganized floss, actually most of my, like, except for the floss that I bought new for like my Egyptian sampler, all of my floss is secondhand, from sort of like various years. A bunch of it's older than I am. So I don't want to have dye-lot issues with, oh, I have this one old skein, and then I buy one new skein, and then it's like, well, these skeins don't match. So I'm just going to buy the skeins for that. So I have, like, between 30 and 40 skeins to buy for this. Because the background, I think, like, the sky needs, like, 4 or 5 skeins. And then, like, the hills, there's, like, 3 or 4 colors in the hills, and they need, like, 2 or 3 skeins each. And then there's, like, the other 25 colors that I don't have. So I need to buy floss for this, but I'm going to wait, partially because I would love for Michaels to have like a coupon off everything before I go. They like doing like 50% off, 40% off one item, but like floss is 70 cents a skein. But I'm gonna be buying like 30 or 40 skeins. That's like 35, like, I did the math last night, like 40 skeins is like $32. Because, you know, it's 70 cents a skein, and that's not bad, but, you know, it adds up. So, if I'm gonna do that, I want to, you know, I would prefer to go with, like, you know, off my total purchase, because, like, oh, wow, one skein is now 35 cents instead of 70. Okay, so my total is, oh, $31.50 instead of, for, like, 32. Like, wow, I saved so much. Actually, it would even be less, $31.75 instead of, like, yeah, you get the point. Like, it's not a worthwhile savings when you're buying like that many skeins of floss. That and my mom, I know, because my mom volunteers in a thrift store, and I asked her to like watch out for, you know, if any floss comes in, like, you know, can you buy it for me? And actually, this time, next time I see my mom, I'm going to bring her a couple pieces of fabric, because when I started getting into cross stitch in a big way, she basically gave me all of her fabric, except I think like pink. It's just like some pink Ida, and I'm like, oh, I stitch on pink Ida. So I left the pink with her, but I took everything else. So I'm gonna, you know, bring her back like a couple pieces of fabric. So she doesn't really cross stitch, like maybe occasionally, but she mostly knits and like crochets and things. But occasionally she's like, yes, I you know, it's useful to have for like a sewing project, or, you know, for like, hey, maybe I feel like doing some of this. So I'm gonna bring her like probably a piece of black, a piece of white, and maybe a piece of green, because I don't know what I'm gonna stitch on my greens. You know, kind of thing. Piece of ivory, maybe. I think I have lots of ivory too. Something like that. I'm gonna bring her a few pieces of fabric, and then she says she has some floss for me. So I want to wait and see what, you know, what's in the bag of floss that Mom has for me, and also hopefully wait for, you know, a better coupon deal for embroidery floss than, you know, the half price one item. Half price one item is great if I'm like buying fabric. That's when I think I have the Lugana for my Egyptian sampler. That was, had a half price coupon for that. So that was cool. So that was like $4 instead of $8 or $5 instead of $10, whatever it was. I don't remember what it was exactly, but yeah, so that was handy. So something like that is great, but I'm not buying fabric anytime soon because I have all the fabric. But yes, so after all that rambling, yes, so I started doing the black and the white. I put in my Moogle, and then I counted over and put in, okay, Snorlax is kind of distorted by the hoop, as well as just by the fact that he has very little light in him. He's a black, that is the black outline of a Snorlax, and yes, that is a portal turret perched on Snorlax, because how is that not amusing? And actually, the thing with the portal turret and the Snorlax is I missed one stitch on his leg. I can even show you exactly what stitch it was. Right where my finger is, there should be 2 rows with a single stitch, and I only put in 1. But by the time I noticed it, like, I'd finished, like, most of Snorlax and, like, half of the turret, and so I was like, I am not pulling all of that out for 1 stitch. But, as a consequence, because it was 1 stitch, but it basically took out an entire row, like, the turret's legs, and the turret's belly, and, like, Snorlax's belly were all, like, off. So, essentially, I didn't have a pattern, really, for that bit, and had to kind of, like, freehand it and kind of go, okay, how do I fetch this to make this look good? And I think, personally, I think I did a damn good job at that turret. I think it looks at least as good as the one that was on the pattern, even though this turret technically has shorter legs now. It may even look better. I don't know. But yeah, I think I did a damn good job at fudging that turret and Snorlax's belly. I'll have to do a little more fudging when I go to add the rest of the colors for the turret, but that's okay. So yes, and so this is the big outline of the Snorlax. He's on his back, just sleeping. And there's a portal turret on his belly. And then, so that was 1, 2, 3. The fourth sprite, which I sort of started, is one of the people from Undertale. I mean, Undertale is kind of interesting in that, from what I understand, I haven't played it, neither has my person, but from what I understand, you can actually do like a complete pacifist run in Undertale and like not kill anybody. So people aren't necessarily like good and evil exactly. But this guy has like a skull face, so he kind of went on the evil side because skull face. He has actually a lot of black and white. He's mostly black and white, so there's sort of like, I put in I think 1 length or like 1.5 lengths of black, you know, and got sort of like one eye, most of his smile, his nose, one arm, he has a leg, and then I'll go up and do the other side. And then there's a bunch of white. So I am not sure. Oh yes, and my needle minder for this one, because I was stitching portal turrets, is the cake is a lie, because portal. So that's my portal needle minder to go with my video game stitch. Yeah, so I think I want to finish off the Undertale guy, but after that I might put it away for a little bit, once I do him, because I have a new start that I want to do. But yeah, so that is the Tangible Good project. It's funny. Actually, a couple of things are funny. One is that my Christopher is way more excited about this cross-stitch piece than he's ever been excited about anything else I've stitched. Because, like, he is not a stitcher. He has zero interest in actually, like, stitching anything. He put 3 stitches, I think, into my butterflies at one point, because, you know, he was kind of like, well, you're really enjoying this, like, what's it about, kind of thing, and he went, wow, this is really boring, I would never do this, and handed me the project back, because it's just, you know, it's slow, but, you know, you get amazing things at the end. But so, for this one, I've been sending him, like, progress pictures as I finish sprites, and he's like really excited about them, so it's kind of fun that way. The other funny thing is, he calls this our tapestry or Desert Bus tapestry, because that's, you know, we eventually want to donate it to the Desert Bus for Hope to help raise money for sick kids. Unfortunately, I think I've missed the like deadline for donating things for this year, like for craft things, just because I think just because it's a really, like, it's a pretty big, like, their October Desert Bus driving fund drive is kind of like their big thing, so they plan it months and months and months in advance. So they ask for sort of like ideas for what you want to do, like what you want to, you know, donate in the spring, so they can kind of get an idea of what they, so they can get an idea of what they have, and so, you know, they make sure they have like a good variety of stuff, you know, of different, you know, different genres and different things, and, you know, things they think they can raffle or auction, and that will, you know, people will be interested, kind of deal. So we missed that deadline because at the time we didn't have the pattern plotted out yet. And it's kind of hard to be like, we want to make this thing without even having our pattern out yet, you know, put together yet. So we finished the pattern, as I said, like last week, yeah. But so that's obviously, that's not spring, so the deadline for this year is probably past. By the same token, I don't know if I'd get this done by October anyway. Doing the black and white, I'm making decent progress, but this is 3 out of, there are a lot of sprites in the net to put the background in. And I mean, we've designed it so like the background should go really fast because it's half stitches, but it is still a 30 by 20 piece of fabric. I think I have 2 inches on each side, so math for that is 16, no, not 16, yes, 16 high, and then 26 by 16, so it's the biggest piece I've ever done. So I don't know if I'd get it done by October anyway. I'm gonna keep working on it and, you know, see what happens. And if I can't, you know, donate it for this year, then like for next year it will be done, and I can do that and, you know, put it in for like when they, you know, do their calls for, hey, we're looking for things for, you know, 2018. I can be like, look, I have this thing, and even, you know, barring that, even if for some reason I can, like, they just like, they don't want it, they're like, we can't, no one will want that, you know, no one will be interested in like auctioning it, like, you know, giving us money for it, donating money for it, whatever you want to call it. It would just be a cool thing to have in our house. So, like, if for some reason the Desert Bus people don't want it, then, well, Chris and I just have a cool, like, tapestry, Desert Bus tapestry, except it wouldn't be a Desert Bus tapestry at that point, but, you know, video game sprites sort of thing going on. So there's that. The other thing is, when my Christopher refers to it, he calls it the tapestry, or the Desert Bus tapestry. When I think about it in my head, it is the Tangible Good Project. Because I'm sure this is a thing that happens to most people. Maybe not Donald Trump, because he's an arrogant bum. Sorry, no. But, you know, most people, and I'd like, I have some days, or like sometimes, I just feel like I am just a useless piece of poop. You know, when I'm having a good day, which is, I think, I have more good days than bad days, I think. You know, I realize that, like, no, that's not true. You know, I'm getting my degree, and I'm being an adult, and I'm, you know, I'm doing my things and such like, and I'm not, you know, I'm not any better or worse than any other person. But, you know, when I'm having a bad day, I'm just like, no, I'm like a failure, and I'm useless, and I'm a terrible human being. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to start this, do this project, is that it is a thing that I can point to and be like, you know, hey, maybe it isn't much, but here is a tangible piece of good that I am potentially doing. You know, it is a, like, I can look at that and go, I am doing a thing that will help people. And it's not even like, oh, I'm, you know, making a present for someone, hey, that's nice, which is nice, and which I think is good. You know, I love receiving presents, obviously, but, you know, I like giving presents too, because I like people to be happy that, like, hey, I did a thing for you, and you're happy about it, and that makes me happy. But this is, you know, depending on how well it's received, you know, it could make $50, $100, $200 for, you know, to donate to making the lives of, you know, really sick children a little bit better. In a way that, like, I otherwise Like, otherwise, like, I don't have much money, like, actual physical money to donate to things. It's just a, you know, a fact of my life. I'm a student and don't have a job right now, so I'm kind of living on, you know, student loans and the goodwill of the government. So not saying I have no money. I do have enough to, like, pay my rent and bills. Like, that's fine. But I don't have much extra, is what I'm saying. Enough that I have a little stitchy budget, you know, enough that I can go out to a movie sometimes. Like, I'm not badly off. But so I cannot just shell out, here's $200 for a charity that I like, because I just don't have the money. But I can stitch. And total material costs are going to be $35? I mean, because I did the math on, like, my fabric, and, like, the per piece of fabric, my $50 works out to, like, $1 per piece of fabric or something. Or, you know, like $1.25 per piece of fabric, which is ridiculously cheap. And then, like, I might have to buy $30 or $35 worth of floss, depending on what my mom has for me, and, you know, that kind of thing. So, like, for a materials cost of, call it $35, you know, I can give that potentially and do some sort of tangible good above the materials cost of the project. And so it means that, like I said, when I'm having a bad day and when I'm feeling like poop, I can look at this and go, you know what? You're okay. You know, I'm probably not the best person in the world, but I'm definitely not the worst person in the world. And here is something that I am doing to make the world a little bit better. And so that is why it is the Tangible Good Project. That was very long-winded. But yeah, so that's that. I'll put my clothespins back on it later and hopefully not lose my needle. The only problem with having needle minders is I've stopped putting my needles away. Because I'm just like, stick. It'll be fine. This is a terrible idea. I cannot end well.